This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
This is why the Nkuhuma Pride is such a firm favourite.
It's Kinky Tail.
He just looks ready for a fight. This is still her territory.
The Avoca boys are here to stay.
How insane was that? Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our 18th installment of Safari Lives. It promises to be an epic afternoon. We've had lots and lots of signs of animals during the course of the day, and we even have an elephant herd back on the property, which is very, very nice. Now, of course, we're not going to be focusing too much on Ellies. It's all about our cat characters, well, all of our characters, actually, over the course of the next 2 hours. And so hopefully you're going to sit back, grab whatever drink you like to drink, whether it be a tea, coffee, or something else, and enjoy the next 2 hours. My name is Tristan. On camera, I've got Sebastian this afternoon, and hopefully you're going to, like I say, enjoy what's going to go on. Remember that you can interact with us. Hashtag Safari Live on Twitter, also at FC on the YouTube chat. If you would like to ask questions, remember to keep them relevant to what you're seeing on screen, and we'll try and answer as many as possible. Now, it's nice to see some Ellies around. The reason why we're actually here with the Ellies is because we're trying to find Hosanna at the moment. Hosanna was around this area this morning, and so we bumped into these guys on our way to try and kind of have a look for him. And so nice to see. Like I said, we haven't really seen too many Ellies around at all. Now, this week has been a very, very, very good week for us here at Safari Live. We've had many sightings, including pretty much all of our characters, and it's been one of those weeks where things have happened. We've also had a bit of rain, so there's lots of changes around, and I wonder if that means we're going to continue to see some epic sightings when it comes to all of the animals that move around in this area. Hopefully it will be. Hopefully it's going to continue from today, and we'll carry on having a really kind of good time of it. There's a little baby Ellie there. Looks like a smallish Ellie walking around in the background. There's quite a few here. It's a nice sized herd that we've actually got at this stage. Right. I think we need to actually just reposition ourselves a little bit, because it's not going to get much better in terms of the view. Lots of bushes in the way, and the road is actually just on the other side. So while we try and find our way around and see if we can get a slightly better visual, I was saying that's been a good week, and lots of cats have been around, so why don't you take a look at where they've all been moving.
It was a busy week on Djuma as most of our cat characters made an appearance. We started the week with a bang as a single impala provided food for Mfukazi, Tingana and Hosanna. From the kill, both Tingana and Hosanna headed north. Hosanna made a brief appearance at the dam camp before heading towards Buffelshoek Dam. From the dam, the little prince marched his way south in search of a meal, and eventually found what he was looking for as he stole an impala kill from Shadulu. Meanwhile, Tingana was once again found at the same kill Mfukazi had been seen on. The Investec pack made a brief incursion into the west of the reserve. The Nkuhumas also returned just north of the camp. To round out the week, we finally found Thandi and Tlalamba as they made their way through the southeast to a stashed Ika kill. Up in the Mara, Waffles and Cubs were in their usual spot at the den. Kapuli was also found in the south of the triangle, while his pride, the Sausage Tree Pride, and Kinky Tail followed the wildebeest to the west. Up in the far north, the playful Paradise Pride spent the afternoon close to the river.
Well, as you can see, been a busy week both here and in the Masai Mara. Lots and lots of movement between all of our cats, and some surprises in the form of Mfukazi and that unknown male leopard. So lots kind of been around, and it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the change in weather, and as we start heading into our summer months and rain starts to fall, whether that's going to influence how things go and whether we're going to see the same amount of movement of our cats. There's definitely been a lot more shifting around, particularly by Hosanna. He's covering a lot more ground these days than he has over the last few months. He's been spent most of his time in central parts of Djuma, but you can see now that he's starting to expand outwards and is moving all kinds of directions as he goes along. But isn't this cool just to see some Ellies? I know we're trying to find our cats more than anything else, but like I said, it's just been so kind of dry with Ellies of late here in Djuma that it's fantastic to actually see them back in this area. You can see that female's just dusting that so she gets rid of all the soil before she starts to eat the roots. At this stage of the year, there really is very little for these guys to actually feed on, and so they need to be able to eat something, and well, roots and tubers are going to be the best thing for them to eat. Now this Ellie is going to be approaching us fairly closely, and so while we let her come past in silence, let's send you across to Taylor McCurdy so she can say good afternoon to all of you.
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, just welcome to Safari Lives, where we're hopefully going to find lots and lots of cats. And we're basically headed now to where we left Tundi this morning on Sunrise Safari. So, unfortunately, Tundi gave us the runaround and she took us through drainage lines, which she typically likes to do. Now, if you've only just perhaps started watching the Safari Live and you are very uncertain as to who some of these animals are that we're talking about, because they're animals we're talking about, not people. So Tundi is a female leopard who lives around and in this area. She's taken over her mother's sort of home. Unfortunately, her mom Karula is not around anymore, so only fitting. And as it normally happens with leopards, she's now moved into this big space that's available, and it's prime property. So she's been exploring quite a bit. She's also got a daughter. Her name is Tlalamba. We might meet up with her a little bit later. So she stashed young Tlalamba in a drainage line or a tree or somewhere around. Not that Tlalamba really stays in one place in these days. And Tundi went on walkabout looking for things to eat. She spotted some nyala, which was great, but she didn't make an attempt on them. She left it a little bit too long, or maybe she thought she didn't really have a good enough chance. So that kind of all happened this morning. So we're going to head back into that area to try and find her. But she was in the middle of two drainage lines, which was between two different roads. So I think we'll just check the surrounding area first, check all the sandy places to see if she walked in that area. And that's sort of how we're going to start it off. And hopefully it will all pay off. But it is a tough game trying to relocate on animals, and lots of concentration will be needed. So we're going to go and do some tracking, something you can't do in the Mara Triangle.
Welcome, good afternoon, karibu sana to the Mara Triangle in Kenya, where the temperature is a very nice 26 degrees Celsius, 81 degrees Fahrenheit, and we are with the North Clan, surrounded by an enormous herd of zebra and wildebeest. They are lying up in what is a nice cool afternoon with some clouds and rain in the distance. Welcome, my name is Steve. I'm joined by Big James on camera, and we're out in the African wilderness. We thought we'd pay a little visit to these individuals, the North Clan, lying up here in the open, and we were with them a little bit earlier this week when the cubs, the little ones, were not quite as shy as they are right now. My first visit to the North Clan den heralded a wonderful sighting of Waffles and her two young cubs, both showing off the early spotted coats of budding adolescence. Elsa B was also in attendance, and under hers and Waffles' watchful eye, the enthusiastic and inquisitive youngsters ventured out. What initially looked like play was actually practice of the important social norms and techniques that will undoubtedly become commonplace for these two in the daily life of being a clan member. But for now, play is play, as these two youngsters don't have to worry too much about all that, and running around is a great way to stretch muscles and let off any built-up energy. How interesting is it to find the little youngsters running around and performing the arts of being an adult? But it's not too serious at these stages. We arrived about half an hour ago and there was no one in attendance. And with wildebeest and zebra feeding around the den itself, and one by one, first one to arrive back was Waffles, and as soon as she did, she's the one there with her bottom in the hole. As soon as she arrived back, three little youngsters popped their head out of little holes in the ground, and then one by one these other individual hyena joined back, and we were very fortunate enough to see the little ones come out. And this youngster in the front of the screen on the bottom right actually was doing a little bit of a sort of that characteristic side-on greeting ceremony with all of the youngsters one at a time. And I'm pretty sure at the moment 2 of the youngsters are busy suckling on mum. And there's one on the left, just a little bit back there on the left. There we go. There's a little hole in the ground that they pop out of. And that possibly could be one of the other pups, I believe, or cubs. I believe Get Fuzzy and Ice have also got 1 each. And Waffles has got 2, all about the same age. I can't tell the difference. I've only seen 3. The last 2 times we were here, we only saw 2. And on our arrival a little while ago, 3 of them were up and about and moving all over the place, but 2 of them clearly more interested in Waffles than the other one, lying on her head and competing with each other for mother's milk, which is always very interesting. And one individual hyena that's at the back now came all the way forward but was chased off, not very well liked near and around the youngsters, which is quite interesting to watch the dynamics. They are all related and all part of the same family, but she's not allowed nearby. I wonder what that could be. But we're going to spend some time here and see if the little youngsters come out. Maybe we can have a look at that one there, the back, James. She's put her head down again. She keeps looking over here. She's very interested. She's very interested in what's going on over here, but she's not really allowed. Zachary, the weather today is fantastic. It was a bit hot in classic African style. As we were leaving camp, James was saying, oh, it's very hot. And the guys at the gate were also saying, very, very hot. But that has led to some thunderstorms and rain in the distance. And the wind has picked up and the clouds have pulled in. And it is actually really nice and cool at the moment. This morning was nice and warm. And this afternoon is promised for some cooling down. All of the wildebeest, and there are so many of them accumulating in and around the river at the moment. Every single patch of shade on our way through had a huge group of wildebeest crammed underneath, trying to sort of keep out of the midday sun. But I don't think many of these animals really understand what a hot day is like. They should come down to South Africa for a little bit and see exactly how our summers get. 30-odd degrees Celsius up here. They feel a little bit warm. Even the zebra are standing in the shade, when in South Africa, zebra in the heat of the day, 40 degrees Celsius, it's about 110 Fahrenheit, standing in the full sunshine, completely not bothered at all. There you can see one of the little youngsters, 2 of them starting to pop out of the hole. But while we see if we can get them out a little bit more, let's go all the way back down to South Africa with Taylor McCurdy.
Well, we haven't really found anything just yet, except they're all going to go in the bushes. Let's see if one will come out. We've got a small family of kudu just moving through this guarri thicket. They might actually be heading down to the pan for a bit of a drink. Now, these are great animals to sort of to watch and also to know their position. And I always talk about this because now we've got 2 potential leopards that could be in this area. Tristan's looking for Hosana around here, and I'm looking for Tundi. And if we hear any big kudu barks, although I'm sure there's quite a few kudu out at the moment, but if they sound like they're around Vuyatela Dam, it would probably be this lot. And they are exceptionally vigilant. They've got big ears, they've got very good eyesight, so they do tend to spot the big cats that'll be trying to hunt them. Although I think Tundi would prefer to go for something a little bit smaller. But Hosana, on the other hand, well, he wouldn't have any problems bringing down one of those younger kudu, like that young male. But they are slowly making their way down towards the pan. So I think we'll just do basically a little bit of a quick loop. And if we don't find anything, I think we can head all the way down to the southern corner of the reserve and see if we can find a male lion that was lingering around there. But there they go. Right, let's carry on. Let's go see if we can find a Tundi. But Tristan actually spent the most time with a Tundi this week. And let's go see if they found themselves a meal or 2.
After weeks of searching, we finally catch up with both Tundi and Kalamba, and they have a kill. Tundi, with effortless grace and experience, hoists her vital meal into a beautiful apple leaf. Kalamba is not far behind, and soon joins her mother at the tree, even though it takes her slightly longer. Once up, she grabbed the carcass at once, trying to reposition it. She twists and turns the carcass, closely watched by her mother's stern gaze. Eventually, after a good feed, little Kalamba joined her mom back on the ground. The 2 then united in a grooming session as darkness fell. The next morning, we returned to find Thandi having her breakfast. She had a few mouthfuls before returning to the ground. As soon as she landed, little Kalamba, like a shot, climbed the tree. With a stare like her mother's, she surveyed the surrounding terrain.
Well, that was epic that they did get a meal. It was really entertaining to watch Kalamba as she's learning to move the carcass around. And I liked that she was trying to stash the carcass in some of the holes in that apple leaf tree. Right, but another surprise for you is just down to the west of us, Tristan has finally managed to find Hosanna.
Sounds. Indeed we have. We found exactly who we were looking for. So we found little Hosanna, who's not so little these days with his big full tummy and big paws, and he's having a serious nap. He is a tired boy. He's obviously been moving around quite a bit during the course of the day, and so it seems as though he's a little kind of sleepy and tired in the shade at the moment. And look at the size of his front paw, even in relation to his head and shoulders. You can see that there's some bulk in that and some serious size starting to come through on Hosanna. He's amazing actually how he's kind of developing. I actually looked at him this morning for the first time in a while and thought to myself, well, he's stopped looking like a cub now. He really is looking like a solid male leopard. Still got a young face, but his body is starting to really fill out quite a lot, and he's starting to look quite thick-set, much like what his dad often looks like when they're full. I know it's when leopards are full they often look better, but just his chest and shoulders area is really starting to grow quite a bit, and it's really good that we're seeing him kind of developing the way he is. I just hope that he's going to be able to hang on into this area and stay here, because it would just be so wonderful to follow him. Can you imagine following Hosanna from when he was born all the way through until he becomes an old male leopard? Wouldn't that just be the most wonderful thing? I think it would be awesome, and so I'm hoping that that's going to be the case. He's probably got no better situation to do that than he does at the moment. I don't think you could have wished for a better kind of way things to have played out. With Tingana being the age that he is and the condition that he's in at the moment, it should allow and buy time for Hosanna to get big enough to be able to actually kind of dominate and maybe even stick around in this area. Lulu, he is the sweetest cat. He's so cute. He kind of, when we first arrived, he had a little opened his eyes. He was like, thank goodness you guys are here. I've been waiting for you all day long, and had a little stretch and then promptly went back to sleep. He knows that he's just got to kind of hold out for a bit, and then he'll start to
Oh my goodness, sorry about that everybody. That's no good now. Hopefully Tristan will be up and running soon enough. Okay, so we're still bumbling. I haven't seen any footprints coming out this way. So I don't know where... Well, no, not I don't know. That just eliminates that Thandi has actually moved in this direction. So this is the antelope that Thandi was trying to hunt this morning. Not this exact group, but a similar composition. In fact, there were a few cows. There was definitely one big bull tailing the family group, and there were a couple of sub-adults. And there seemed to be two youngsters here as well. Well, at least one young bull just feeding. And again, just like the kudu, seeing them scattered all along these drainage lines, which is exactly where the leopards are wanting to hunt, because that's where the food is. So they better be careful. Now, I haven't seen any vultures or anything perched up in trees. I haven't heard any alarm calls since we last saw one another. It's been still fairly quiet. And I'm hoping that if I just go around and just check Buffles or Cutline, that we'll maybe see some tracks of Thandi and then of Kalamba. I'm hoping that they did get something to eat. She could do with a meal. She only had a deka, which kept her belly full for a little bit, not for particularly long. And there the Inyala slowly move off and away back down to the drainage line. The wind is now starting to pick up, so Thandi could have taken a break after we saw her this morning, when she eventually just disappeared behind a termite mound, and maybe just saving her strength for a little bit later. It was very still. It was beautiful weather throughout the whole day, but this works better for the predators in terms of hunting. Goodness, there's lots of little flies and things around today. We'll just have a little check around here, and then if there's nothing, we're going to head down south and try our luck that side. I know that Tristan said something about the Nkurumah Pride being on Chitwa. I'm not sure if it was just that they passed through, or if they're actually there. So we'll maybe also make our way down that side and go and do a bit of investigating. Chitwa Dam is always nice and a good source of water. So our chances of seeing some animals down there will be fairly good as well. Okay, here's a nice sandy spot just to check. Lots of elephant activity around today. There was even a few sleeping just outside our rooms under a shady tree. Oop, hold on, Craig. Okay, this is good news. So Tandy's tracks I've just picked up now from this morning have come from Tambueti Dam. So that means Lalamba is that side. We're going to do a little bit more of investigating within this area, and hopefully I'll have some positive news for you later.
Thank you, Taylor. Well, we have not got any tracks. We've got the animals, which is very cool. And every now and again, the little youngster, one of them, pops its head out of that hole. It's very cute. Very interested in the big wide world, and we're hoping they'll come out at some stage. Now that the adults are in attendance, it should be time for the youngsters to come out and play. But I think what's going on is the youngsters are suckling. The mum was away. There we go, just in the hole by Waffles' head. There's a little one. It's going to come out. It's just behind her there. Might still be suckling. There you can actually see below Waffles' chin, well, in front of her nose is a set of ears, and then below her chin there's two little paws there. And that is one youngster with its head down the burrow, feeding, suckling, and you can just see the little paws, and there's another one's face. It's just coming out, getting a little bit inquisitive, maybe wants to come and say hello. And this is Waffles the matriarch wearing a collar for research purposes. Well, people from the Michigan University in the USA are researching them here. James Richard, well, I've only seen 3, but apparently there should be 4 really small youngsters about that sort of size. And then I saw another sort of medium-sized one a moment ago, but I think there's 2 of them. So there's 2 of them, and then 4 of the really small little dark ones. One with ice, one with fuzzy bear, I think. And then 2 with Waffles. The names are just going to take me a very long time to wrap my head around. But here we go. He's going to come out. No, still wants to suckle. But look at those little feet just under Waffles' chin. The cutest little paws. Can you see them there under her shoulder? You can just see the ear poking out above her leg. Right down there by the mammary glands. Roshni, all 4 of the really small ones all look very much the same age. I believe they are pretty much the same age. I can't tell the difference between them, but I've only seen 3, but they weren't together. 2 were with Waffles by the hole, and one was popping its head out of the little one hole on the side. So I didn't see the comparison of the 3, but Brent assures me that they're pretty much the same age. And then the other one I saw was pretty much already got the adult sort of colouring with the spots and the coloration, but was still pretty small. Still a pretty small little youngster, 4-5 months or so. There's the foot again. You can see the feet, it's upside down. There we go. You look between Waffles' legs, you can actually see the little youngster busy suckling. Such a good mother. While the one youngster was suckling, the other one was lying on top of Waffles' head. While she was lying on the floor, she was lying like that, and was lying on top of her head, not bothered at all. Such a good mum. So tolerant. I suppose until the little youngsters start biting things they shouldn't be biting, they'll be tolerated. And at some stage, discipline will have to start coming through. Landscape, but at the moment it is the Z and
arrived at the murderous Mara River just in time to watch a large herd of zebra start to crash their way through the dangerous waters. The first to go thrashed at the waters and attracted the attention of a large group. The zebra came ominously close to the waiting predators. One subadult, isolated from the rest, fell victim to a very large croc. The crocodile clamped down its powerful jaws and pulled the stricken zebra downstream, where the rest of the crocodiles quickly closed in. This moment allowed some zebra the freedom to cross the river unchallenged, while others, shaken at seeing one of their own taken, decided against taking the plunge and turned back. Well, I'm terribly sorry about whatever technical issues happened there with the link through to the zebra crossing, but how incredible was that to be able to witness those individuals crossing from the Masai Mara side to the triangle side, and one poor individual falling victim to a very large crocodile, and falling victim, it turned out to be 36 very large crocodiles that just completely dismembered that zebra in a matter of about 5 minutes. It was drowned pretty quickly, and then with the very characteristic barrel rolls that the crocodiles do, well, 1 out of the million, or 600,000, 1 out of the 600,000 fell victim to the crocodiles, which is all part and parcel of what happens this time of year. If you look over the plains, there are a few wildebeest and a few zebra from time to time really do not dent what we can see. Out here is just thousands and thousands of animals. Today I think I've seen more wildebeest and zebra than I have seen over the last few days, and they all seem to be moving closer and closer to the river. So the next few days, James and I are most certainly going to be spending time closer to the river, checking the crossings. This morning we nearly had one. We actually had a very small crossing of about 7 zebra, and the crocodiles were not bothered at all. I think they weren't sort of excited by the thrashing of the water. Nevertheless, the largest crocodiles recorded are 5.5 meters and weighing over 1,000 kilograms, so 2,000 pounds, and that's about 18 feet. So that's enormous. That is very, very big. That was a crocodile that was pulled out of the Luvuvu River in the northern Kruger. But I have no doubt that there are possibly even bigger crocodiles out there. But that is what the history books tell us. And James, just right here, we've got a little youngster that's popped its head out, the little inquisitive one. Keeps popping its head in and out of that little hole there. He's too cute. Maybe he's waiting for mum as well to come and suckle, because possibly getting quite hungry. But anyway, the plains are abounding with animals, and we're going to move off shortly to go and see if we can maybe find some lions following these herds. Lulu, no, the adults will possibly look after the den, but they won't suckle. So from a babysitting point of view, yes, most certainly they will look after and guard the den site, but they won't do any communal suckling. That is completely reserved for the adult on its own. Whereas in brown hyena and striped hyena, there's a lot of cross-suckling, which goes to show how well linked and related those families are. But in crocata, which is the spotted hyena, there's absolutely no assistance in the milking of the youngsters, and they do go for a very long time, almost a year, of providing milk, and a lot of that's got to do linked with the diet of numerous amounts of bone, that the hyena are almost sort of unparalleled in this environment for accumulating or for accessing. Even once all the herds are gone, the hyena will still be able to follow up on bones and carcasses that have been left dotted around the plains. And also, when they do catch an animal, they're able to access far more of it than the others do. But they were away. I think maybe it's because the herds surrounded the den. They probably just moved off a few meters into the shade, and then as it cooled down, they came all the way back again. So anyway, back down to South Africa, and hopefully Taylor McCurdy can do something with those tracks.
So we're just about to arrive at Buffels Cook Dam, which is slowly drying up, but it's one of the few dams that has a decent amount of water in it. So we'll stop to have a quick little look and see if anything has come down to have a drink. Although, at first glance, it kind of looks empty. A couple of birds. Oh, hippos. Hang on, why they're coming this way? Looks like they're making an escape out of the water. They're going to come straight towards us. Look at this. I'm actually just going to be very careful with my car, because I don't want these hippo to charge me. Now, I think they're a little bit on the nervous side, so this is not ideal because the water's not particularly deep, so I don't think they feel very safe in it. And this big male hippo in front is a hippo we see on a regular basis, and he has a, well, I suppose, a pet name, which is Scuba Steve, and he's quite a shy hippopotamus. So he does, sorry hippos, I didn't mean to give you a fright. Obviously we're quite far away from them, and then that cow is just following in suit. And this is where these creatures can become extremely dangerous. So you've also got to be careful of hippos charging your vehicle. So I'm going to leave them because I didn't want them to leave the water. The fact that they got out of the water. Again, look, if in case you have never seen Buffelshoek Dam, it's all the way down over there, but it's very, very shallow at the moment. So I'm going to keep going and just let those hippos come back to the water where they do feel a lot safer. If it was not Scuba Steve, if it was that cow by herself and maybe another hippo bull, I don't think they would have got out. I just know that it's in that male's nature. He's very, very nervous. He hasn't got any confidence at all. Yes, Rosalind, hippos are indeed deadly. They kill more people than the big five put together, so you've got to watch out for them. And they're just wild animals, and as you've just seen, even though they're so massive, they can be, you know, scaredy cats. And I think, Shem, I feel like a lot of the time when people end up getting injured is because they're so frightened of us as humans, and they're protective over their areas. They hold territories. So if I were to go anywhere near that water, and in foot in a car, and he was happy, he could quite happily turn around and attack me, and there's nothing wrong with him doing that. He's just protecting what's his. And like I said, because there's not much water in there, he's not feeling particularly comfortable. I think he feels quite vulnerable, that maybe I could run in there and easily attack him. Not that I'd want to do something like that, but maybe that's what he thinks in his mind. Right, so we didn't pick up on any fresh signs of Tandy, just some old tracks from where she came in to Vuyatela this morning. But Tristan has managed to sort out his gremlins, and he's still with Hosana.
Indeed. Now, sorry about it a little bit earlier. We had a slight technical difficulty. Luckily, we were so close to camp that we could shoot in like a Formula One pit stop crew and get everything sorted out and back out again to be able to spend some time with our favorite little boy. He's kind of just moved a little bit from where he last was. His legs were in the sun, so he got hot feet and he needed to kind of reposition himself. So he's put himself in the shade now, and that didn't go down well with the local squirrel population in the neighborhood, as they were all shouting at him. And then also he's kind of now just looking around. There were a few impalas around as well, so he's just kind of scanning about, and there's also a little bit of a breeze that's kind of blowing into his face. So he looks quite content, doesn't he? He's about as happy as you could ever imagine for a leopard. He's got a full tummy, there's a bit of a breeze blowing, he's got some shade, and he's got some company, which we know Hosana likes to have. So typical of him to be kind of around where he is now. Galagopan is one of his favorite little haunts, to be able to not only rest but get water, and to be able to hunt potential food items that have come this way. And I was a bit worried a little earlier because I thought potentially the Ellies might have pushed him off and moved him from this area, because they seem to have come from here, and when Ellies are around they sometimes can make leopards move, and that's maybe why he's lying here and not in the drainage line off Galagopan, because of the fact that the Ellies moved through there. They might have just made him move kind of a little bit out, and so he's found the next best place, which is some shade, conveniently 1 meter off the road. So finding him really was not tricky this afternoon at all. Now, it's been a very, 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 very busy week for Hosana. He's been all over the place, and well, he had a tough time of it trying to defend his meal that he had in the middle of the week.
We find Hosana on a hot afternoon with a fresh nyala kill. He barely had time to catch his breath when a hyena approached the kill. The little chief grabbed the nyala carcass and with all his might tried to haul the huge kill up a tree. Alas, he just wasn't strong enough to get the carcass to safety before Koza, a male hyena, ran in and latched onto the carcass. Hosana, realizing he was no match for the hyena, let go in disgust. Koza proceeded to drag the carcass a short distance away before tucking into his stolen meal. Hosana was helpless but patient as he lay panting, looking for any gap to retrieve his meal. Unfortunately for the prince, the noise of crushing bone attracted another member of the Juma clan, and Tima bounded in to join in the festivities. With the two hyenas preoccupied, Hosana spotted a piece and like a flash ran in. Unfortunately, he wasn't fast enough and was promptly chased off the scene by the hyenas.
Well, wasn't that a tough time for poor Hosana? I felt so bad for him. He had done so well to find himself a meal, and then unfortunately they stole it from him, and he was left not to get any of it. Although it seemed as though the next morning Taylor went back and she managed to find him sort of noshing on a leg or something like that, and so maybe he got a little piece out of it and was able to then kind of eat that. But it really did feel sorry for him. It's tough out here when there's hyenas and other leopards that steal from you, and so poor Hosana has had to learn that the hard way this year. He really has had a difficult time of it in terms of thievery. The thing is, though, is that he did everything right there. It was just unfortunate circumstance, and also a problem that he killed something that was a little too large for his size at this stage. If he had killed something smaller, he would have done everything right. He would have been into the tree with his carcass and everything would have been okay. But because he killed a large animal, it makes it a lot trickier for him to have gotten it up. But he killed it, he dragged it to the base of a tree before any hyenas had arrived. He sat there, he was just catching his breath, he was starting to kind of eat it a little bit, open it up, try and lighten it, and unfortunately he just got caught too early on. And that happens from time to time, even to the most experienced of leopards. I've seen them lose kills like that. The only thing is, I think he could have been more aggressive potentially towards a male hyena that he saw. I suppose he's still on the younger side, but a big male leopard might not have stood down to a small male hyena of Causa's size, and he might have then tried to take it back. But he ran to the tree, picked it up before the hyena came. He tried to get it up, but it was just literally too heavy. He tried with all his strength to get it up there, and this is just the way it goes. I've seen many leopards lose kills like that, including big males like Tingana, who just don't have the time frame to get it up and struggle with that carcass all the way up the tree. And so, like I say, he did everything right, and his experience to try and put it up into the tree was there, but unfortunately, this is the way it goes sometimes, and they lose out. But Hosana will learn from that and hopefully be able to get it right next time. Anyway, talking about hyenas, Steve sounds like he's having a wonderful afternoon in the company of the North Clan, and well, they are not as thieving as the hyenas down here. They do a lot of work of their own.
3 hyena joined the scene, and now all the youngsters have come out. We've seen 4 now. Three running around now. These 2 got very excited eventually. It's probably Mum that arrived back. It's very hard. I'm getting very confused because all the youngsters are playing with all the mothers and running around and almost suckling off everyone. They're doing a little bit of pasting again. Very important life lessons to learn. These 2 are much smaller than Waffles' ones. You can see they don't even have any spots yet on the chest. You see that they're completely dark in colour. He's doing the pasting. There we go. Not a very successful one at the back there, but that's why we practice. And it was doing a little bit of digging as well before. The hole's not big enough, it says to Mum. What's going on in that head with that nose? What can you smell, little one? Feeling a lot more confident that there's more adults around. Well, Debbie, it's a good question. It's all got to do with the researchers and what sort of money they have. Funding is always important, and collaring of an individual costs money because you've got to dart them, which means you need the vet and then you need the collar, probably a new one. So yeah, it's one of those questions I'll have to ask the researchers when I see them. But it depends on how long they want their study to go for. One matriarch might be enough for them. They might have got enough data by the end. See, you can see 4 of them now. It's just all over the show. 4 really small youngsters, and then the one that's up at the top there's got a little bit more spots on it. The head's a little bit more darker. You can see the spots a little bit more on the chest than the one in front. See, it's pasting. One of the sub-adults pasted on that branch before. And, there we go. A little bit of love. A little bit of affection in the hyena world. Now this one is allowing one to suckle. So I don't know what's going on here with regards to the youngsters. They're all over the place with the adults. Falling in the hole, running around, pasting, greeting everybody. A very exciting time for them. They've been in the ground for quite some time. You see these 2, they've got a lot more spots on the chest, slowly coming through. Megan, hyena cubs as well as wild dog cubs. are born black, purely because they get very, very... Sorry, there's some zebra behind us. We're having a little bit of a fight. To keep them warmer, black fur actually is much warmer than white fur. And so when they're in the hole there, they stay a little bit warmer than they do if they were a lighter colour. I think that's the main reason. And slowly over time, they will generate those spots. Lion cubs, on the other hand, are much lighter in colour but more camouflaged. They don't have a hole to hide in, so maybe the blackness is also to hide the youngsters in the hole from predators. They can go quite deep in there, and they sort of blend in with the shadows, and also the black is to keep them warm. It's my thoughts anyway, whereas lion and leopard cubs generally just secreted under a bush somewhere, and well, they need the spots to keep them there quite nice and well hidden. They don't have the benefit of a hole in the ground. And just look at how this is all playing out in front of us. The zebra and the wildebeest are not bothered at all, and an entire family of hyena doing their thing. Monique, myself personally, I have no idea. They've all got pseudo-penises, and they all have what looks like genitals, which is one of those things you get in hyena society. And it's only after maybe a little while, when they get a little bit bigger, and you'll start to be able to tell who is the male and who is the female. For example, that one is busy playing with its anal gland, if you can see that really interesting movement there. Well, charming indeed. And it warrants a sniff, doesn't it? Yes. Everything in hyena society is about the nose. Okay, well, we're starting to get a little whiff of the hyena den itself as the wind changes its course. But our hyena are up and active, and I think Tristan is still with the little chief. Let's see if he's going to wake up anytime soon.
Hosanna is very sleepy, and I don't expect anything less. He's been a sleepy kitty for much of the afternoon, given it's quite warm, and he was fairly active when we actually found him this morning. He kind of woke up and walked around, and we stayed with him a bit after drive just to see where he would end up. And he was still going and stalking and scent marking, and he was heavily scent marking. He must have scent marked at least 6 or 7 times in about a 200-meter stretch of road. So he was marking every tree, side of the road, scraping his back legs like we saw him do kind of in the middle of the week. And so, you know, he's kind of been an active boy this morning, and I'm not surprised then that he needs a little bit of a nap. I would imagine what we're going to see from him is he's going to sleep like this. As that sun starts to get a little bit lower, he's going to make his way down to the pan for a little drink, and then from there, who knows where he's going to head. I have a sneaky suspicion he'll just round the kind of drainage line and head off towards Pan, the one in front of the camp with the dam camp, and just go and have a little look around there, maybe try and do some hunting, and from there it's anyone's guess as to where he goes. Hopefully he spends the night in that area and tries to hunt, and he'll be around tomorrow morning. That's what I'm kind of hoping will happen, but we'll just have to see how it goes. Jose, no, not really, not from anything in particular. He's waking up now because a vehicle is joining us on the sighting, and so that's why he's just kind of having a bit of a stretch. But no, he's not really vulnerable. I mean, theoretically, the only things that he's got to worry about is big male leopards or lions, and both of those will probably be sleeping just like he is at the moment. He's also got a tree right next to him. If potentially a clan of hyenas are to come past, he would be able just to run straight up that tree there and kind of go in for safety. So he's definitely got options, but no, he's not vulnerable. It's just, you know, we often think of leopards as shy, secretive animals, and while for the most part they are, when they're left to their own devices or are very relaxed and habituated like these leopards are, we get to see that they actually don't mind sleeping right out in the open where they can kind of see what's going on around them just as much as any other animal. So, you know, they know what they're doing. Hosanna's, you know, even though he's young in his life, he's still experienced a lot, and to survive to the point that he has, given that he was orphaned at such a young age, it's pretty incredible where he is, and he'll know where is safe and where isn't. And this particular area that we're in, it's probably the central point of Tingana's territory, and so that's why he'll be feeling quite safe. Kat, how do we identify these leopards? Well, there's a number of ways to do it, Kat. Spots are pretty much the best way and the only way scientifically to really kind of
do it. And what you'll use is you'll either use those spots. You see he's got 3 little spots over the top of his whiskers. You see there's those black lines where the whiskers come out. Then just above that are 3 little black spots, one very close to his nose and then 2 close together a bit further away. Now those will be a 3 on his right side. Then on his left side he also has 3 spots, so that would mean that he is what we would call a 3-3 male. Now the arrangement of those spots is different on every single leopard. It's much like a fingerprint. You'll have different kind of spots completely, as well as his facial markings and his body. The spots will be different to any other leopard that is out there, and so if you get different kind of spots and you can match them against others, you can recognize it. But how we recognize them, because we are fortunate enough to see a lot of these leopards as often as we do, we often can recognize them just clearly or by sight. So what they look like, much like you maybe have a domestic animal at home, if you have a dog or a cat, you would be able to know which one is your dog or cat because you've seen it so many times, and you get to recognize certain traits within them. And it's the same thing with these guys. Is once you see them a lot, you recognize eye color, you recognize body shape, and certain little things that will give it away, that will tell you who this leopard is. And so, I mean, spots are the scientific way, but out here, very seldom do I look at a leopard's spots before we know who it is. Just the general sort of appearance of that animal, the way it looks, its facial kind of features, its eye color, its ears, that will all kind of tell you who exactly it is. But spots are the one that you should really kind of use if you are to do things properly. And each, like I say, each leopard will have a completely different spot pattern to another one. But a very, very, very sleepy cat. Right, well, we're sitting here with Hosanna. We're going to hope that he's going to wake up and get going for the afternoon. But while we do that, let's send you back across to Taylor, who I'm sure is just driving around trying to find Thandi and Kalamba, and hopefully she'll get some luck soon.
So we gave up on searching for Thandi and Kalamba. I don't know where they are. So what we did is we came all the way down along the eastern boundary and then down to the south, and we're trying to find one of the Avoca male lions who was seen here this morning with Tristan, but I don't see him anymore, so I'm wondering if he hasn't maybe moved off. So he was sleeping around here somewhere. He's got a bad limp, so I don't think he'd be going too far. So we're just going to quickly keep checking the shady patches in case I've missed him. If you did watch a sunrise safari this morning and you saw the interaction between the Avoca male and Tingana, you really realize how flat a lion can make itself. Okay, let me just check here to make sure that there is nothing. I might have to end up going back up again. Yes, I think we will do quickly. Just check one more time along here. Anyway, something else that we could see around and in this area that have been popping up over the last week or so is the wild dogs, and we did have a spectacular sighting of them just a few days ago.
The Mbali and Vestec breakaway pack and their puppies showed up on our western boundary. It was hard to get a total count of the dogs as they were lying up in some long grass. Eventually one of the pack members initiated a game with one of the other dogs, but an intruder arrived on scene. Immediately adults went into defense mode and the puppies raced off to safety. The hyena eventually moved off and left the pack in peace. Sadly, it seems as though 2 of the puppies have not made it. Only 4 remain. I have no doubt that the adults will do their very best to keep the remaining pups alive.
Right, how epic was that? We've been so fortunate to have the awesome dogs on the property, and I hope that they come back. That could be something else. If all hope fails today, we might have to head down towards the west. We're checking all quadrants of the reserve at the moment. Okay. Haven't seen the dog tracks though, haven't heard anything. I'm still just looking for that lion. He's here somewhere. Giraffe Girl, you have exclaimed and you're excited about about the wild dogs. Yes, I also do enjoy them. They are really lovely when they're around. I just can't believe how big those puppies are getting too. They're enormous. I feel like they've doubled in size, but nothing stays little for very long out here. It's important that they all grow nice and big and strong. Sorry, I'm still just checking here for the lion. I'm going all the way down to the boundary now. I'm sure he's here somewhere, just in the shade. Okay, wonderful. Okay, we're going to do some proper searching and just check the shadows very carefully to find this avoca male that's lying somewhere around here. Off you go back to Steve, who's waiting patiently at the hyena den.
Well, we are still here. We were thinking of leaving, but can't leave when all the little ones come out. All have been very active as always. Most active I've seen them. Pasting. Some growls going on there. See if you can hear it. That sub-adult's getting a bit too close. The female in the hole is not liking the attention. The youngsters are trying to figure out what's growling all about, getting them quite excited. My safari, very good question. My knowledge of animals and their teeth needs a little bit of work. So I'm going to pose a question to the viewers. How many teeth do hyena have? I'm going to reckon it's in the 30s, somewhere around there. But the exact number I'm not sure at the moment. But every day it's good to add some knowledge to our minds. And what I do know is that their bite force is incredible. And look at that. Look at those teeth there. They are enormous. Send through your questions or comments to #SafariLive, or just pop it on the YouTube stream. Who can tell us how many teeth does the average hyena have? And Peggy, hyena have got that reputation of being a scavenger, and yes, they do scavenge, but they are very adept at killing their own prey, catching their own food, and in their clans they pick out the weak, and they will actually physically chase it down and bite it, very similar to the way wild dogs do, bite it, and eventually subdue it. The animal eventually dies of blood loss and shock as it gets eaten alive. So very, very fast-moving animals. They can keep up a good pace, and they pretty much just run the animal into the ground, but generally selecting the weakest individual. Brent had a few months ago, I think in February, had the Happy Zebra clan catching a topi. That was quite something to behold. It's something I'm quite looking forward to out here. Down in South Africa, we seem to only find the hyena scavenging and following the likes of Hosana and Tingana around, but not necessarily doing the killing themselves. But we don't get to see it. We don't get to spend the time. And up here we're not really supposed to be following hyenas, so we've got them by the den site. So to see what they're doing and where they're going and how they hunt, very difficult. But I know Brent, Jamie and Scott have all had some really epic sightings of the hyena doing all sorts of things, and also out-competing lion, which is something that's quite tricky to do. Laura, you know what? I want to know what pasting is. Well, if you have a look at the youngsters there, let's go back to the youngsters. On the right of this medium-sized one here, James, there's that little branch there. Just down. Yeah, you see a little branch to the right of this one individual. See if I can put my finger on it. Yeah, there we go. That branch right there. There we go. That one. Well, in and around a den site, youngsters will practice pasting. So hyena have got an anal gland, and when adults move around in their territories and in long distances away from the den, they've got specific sort of signposts and areas where they'll paste. So they'll basically rub their bottom, the anal gland, on top of the branch or the stalk or whatever it might be, and that gives off all sorts of communication signals to their clan, to other clans. It sort of advertises occupancy. It's similar to what leopards do in their urine spraying, except the paste lasts a lot longer. And people postulate that the smell or the paste itself can indicate the sexual maturity. A little bit of argy-bargy. The sexual maturity, strength, size, reproductive ability of the clan, we can only guess. But the pasting needs to be redone every couple of weeks. And in and around a den site, The youngsters will practice, and they'll do it religiously. Almost it becomes very instinctive for them, because when they're out in the field, they need to be able to do it at some stage at those signposts where they also defecate. Yes, indeed. That zebra's got a lot to say this afternoon. So the pasting is something that the youngsters practice, and we've probably seen a few. You've probably seen a few clips, or in that one clip, and earlier we saw the youngsters sort of. I don't know if you've got a dog at home and they walk around and they rub their bum on the carpet because they've got worms. Well, that's kind of what pasting looks like in these individuals. They lift up their tail and they rub their anal gland onto a small stalk that's a little bit elevated off the ground, and then that gives off a communication signal which lasts for 2 weeks, which gives off a really, really pungent smell if you ever do happen to come across one. Well, it seems like Limpy Lou has been found. Let's go to Taylor, who would like to show you the battered old gentleman.
Here is Limpy Lou, one of the Avoca boys, who I cannot believe is the size that he is. These guys have, like, I'm not even joking, doubled in size, not only in body mass, but also with their manes. It's just absolutely extraordinary how quickly these animals grow. And we were literally just talking about how nothing stays little forever, and of course that applies to these males. Now, the Avoca boys have been an interesting coalition of males that have come from the north, and we haven't been seeing them too often. They pop their noses on every now and then, but they haven't quite established themselves up here in the north since the Birmingham boys moved on further south. And there's no sign of the Birmingham males, who were the coalition that were up here, returning any time soon. So I think slowly but surely, once the Avocas realize that the space is really now open and up for grabs, they'll start moving on in. They've got a hard job of trying to convince the females, or the prides within the area, that they're worthy. It'll take a little bit of time, but eventually they'll worm their way in, which is not normally happens. It's not a typical quick thing. The female lions are, slow to gain the trust of others. Fair enough. But luckily for the Nkuhumas is that they don't have any young cubs. And the only real issue that they could occur within the pride is that these boys chase out the young Nkuhuma male, and then also, his fellowship now, because he's got 3 others that have decided they quite like him too and would also want to join his coalition. So they might not tolerate them anymore, but while they're not permanently here in the northern Sabi Sands, they seem to be spending their time more in the Manuleti and in Buffelshoek, which is just north of us. I reckon in the next few months they'll probably settle on down. It also sounds like there's been a couple of lionesses, I don't know which lionesses, mating with them from the Nkuhuma pride. Zephyr, yes, shame. I'm not sure what's happened to this male lion, but he's been limping for a couple of days now. And Tristan was saying to me it looks like one of his joints is quite swollen. So I suppose we can really only speculate whether it's a snake bite, whether he's run after something and he's, twisted a joint. That happens. You know what it's like when you twist your ankle and how swollen your leg becomes. These kinds of injuries are fairly common with animals, especially if you're running at full speed. You're not particularly looking at where your feet are going. With the amount of holes and things like that here, I suppose anything could happen. And that does look a little bit swollen there, just on that joint. So it could be a cut that's maybe got infected. Something like that could cause some serious swelling too. But it's a very minor injury for this boy. We've seen animals, for example, just talking about the Nkuhuma pride again. Look at that lioness that had that monstrous gash on her hind leg, and how she's completely recovered, and she looked really, really terrible at one point. She was thin, she had no muscle, even though she was eating on a regular basis, and she has quite a severe limp too, but she's fine now. So these animals are a lot more resilient than we think, and we need to give them credit where credit's due. And healing is definitely one of them. And if they're not strong enough to survive out here, to survive everything that's thrown at them, then nature deems them not worthy of living. And I know that sounds sad to you and I, but that's just how it works out here in the wild, wild west. But he's probably going to do what a lion does. He's going to just rest up and he's kind of in the fork of a road. We're at a T-junction, if you will, an animal pathway, and then a fire break. We'll sit here and watch this fella, and hopefully he'll do a rollover and open those beautiful golden eyes for us to see. Another boy that's got beautiful golden eyes but is keeping them tightly shut is Hosanna.
Indeed, our golden, it's not only golden eyes, he's our golden cat, really, in many respects, and he's also having a very big nap. I think it's, all of the cats were so busy this morning that they decided it's time to kind of rest. I'm pretty sure that they will get going. It's starting to cool down quite nicely, and knowing Hosanna, this is just before the time he starts to get going. He normally starts to get going at about sort of 5:30. That's his normal kind of time. He likes to wander just before that sun sets, and then he kind of wanders around at sunset itself. So I expect him to wake up fairly soon. I'm hoping he will, at least, and provide us with some epic entertainment, as he generally does. In the moment, though, it's a little bit of a sleepy cat. He kind of is taking it very easy and just digesting that stolen kill of his that he got from Shadulu. He ate that for a few days, and so his tummy is really nice and bulgy. But knowing Hosanna too, he's not going to just sit down tonight and not hunt. He just has a bottomless pit for a stomach, and so pretty sure he's going to try and find some semblance of food during the night. You can see he's dreaming. There's a little twitching of his toes. What are you chasing, boy? Obviously dreaming he's chasing something. There's the front foot is also twitching now as well. So he's such a silly cat. He really is. It's been amazing kind of following him over the past few months. I don't think could have asked for anything better. We've been so spoiled with how many things he's provided in terms of unique behavior, in terms of just general kind of goofiness that you wouldn't really expect from a leopard. And to get to know a leopard the way we have with him has been very, very, very special. We've had the most amazing time with him. But so, Andy, I mean, it depends. Obviously, it depends on weather conditions a lot of the time. Also depends on what's around him and what opportunities come their way. So, if there's hunting opportunities. But generally, you'll find a leopard will sleep for anywhere between sort of 14 and 18 hours a day. Maybe even sometimes more than that. It depends on how full they are, whether they've got food, all of these kind of things. Some cats are more active. A cat like Hosanna, he tends to move a lot. You see him moving around quite a bit when he's not hunting or feeding. When he's hunting at these pans, then he sits the whole night. But when he's feeding, he stays there. But otherwise, you can see he kind of walks a lot. I mean, the other day we found he was seen at Buffelshoek Dam. In the afternoon, we then found him very close to camp. He then walked all the way back to Buffelshoek Dam, and the following morning, he had walked from Buffelshoek Dam to the south western corner, which is on the opposite end from where Buffelshoek Dam is. So he'd covered a huge amount of distance during that time, and that would have meant that he didn't actually sleep as much. So, it just depends on the day, but on average, I would say between sort of maybe 12 and 18 hours would be my kind of range for a leopard. They're far more active than the lions. Taylor's lion that she's got is probably more around 20 hours. Now, I was saying earlier in the week that he had a busy time as he walked about all over the place, and we've also discussed how he always is involved in shenanigans, and well, we had a pretty entertaining sighting of him as he tried to take on a ferocious lizard.
After losing out to the hyena, the little chief was on the prowl for another meal. Hidden in the grass was a large monitor lizard. Sana approached to investigate. Little did he know he had come up against a worthy adversary. The monitor lashed out with teeth and a whipping tail. Realizing discretion was the better part of valor, Sana strutted off, leaving the brave lizard to fight another day. The little scent marking done, the prince decided to flop down. He was either bored or decided a bit of practice was in order, as soon he swatted and played with a stick. Perhaps next time the monitor won't be so lucky, with his ninja technique finely tuned.
Well, yes, the ninja chop that he's practiced now on the stick, that monitor lizard better watch out next time, because now he's honed his skills. It was very funny watching him playing around with that stick. I didn't laugh a lot, and actually it was our last drive with VM, one of our camera operators, and VM wanted him to play with the stick when we started the drive, and we somehow managed to actually get it on camera. It was very, very, very cute. He is such a goofball, this cat, often just doing these kind of things where he messes about and does all kinds of random stuff with sticks and branches and grass, and really kind of just goes crazy at times. I thoroughly enjoy watching him when he's like that. He really kind of makes me laugh. You can see that the youthfulness is still in him when he does those kind of things. It's not like, Tingana will very seldom mess around with a stick or something like that, whereas Hosana, he tends to just play all the time, and sometimes he even gets the crazies where he just runs around like a hooligan, round in circles and up and down and grabs things, and it's pretty funny because you see that a lot in domestic cats, particularly younger domestic cats, and so he's in many respects that way as well. He kind of does these kind of things, and he really is a crazy individual. I thoroughly kind of enjoy following him around and seeing what he gets up to. He's difficult not to like Hosana, so even if you're not a leopard fan, spending time with him and watching his antics really kind of has to endear you to him as an individual. Like I say, if you're not really a leopard fan, he's still an individual and a personality in terms of a cat personality that you can't help but be attracted to. He brings a smile to most people's faces, and it's really interesting because obviously, we spend a lot of time with him, probably far more than anybody else out here. But we often get to speak to guests that have been around and that have seen him, and, the various landowners in these areas. And I have yet to meet somebody. Are you now talking, Hosana, in your sleep? I've yet to meet somebody that hasn't absolute loved spending time with this cat and hasn't kind of walked away with saying what a special cat he is. So he really is quite incredible, and even when he's sleeping he can provide entertainment by talking to us in his dreams. I wonder what he would say if he was actually sitting here and taking it easy. Now he's going to do a big stretch. His stretches are good news. We want to see stretches like that because it means he's starting to kind of stir a little bit. They'll be infrequent to start with, but as he starts to wake up, so they'll more and more will happen. Right, now hopefully it is a good sign that he is going to start waking up, but from one sleeping cat to another, let's send you back across to Taylor McCurdy.
I think he's going to be sleepy for quite some time. He hasn't even blinked his eyes once since we've been here. They've been closed nice and tight. And I think he's enjoying the cool afternoon breeze as well as with the... Craig. Look at that unsuspecting waterbuck that's just over there. Now, there's a waterbuck that's walking up. It's still quite far away. I don't think that this lion is going to get up and hunt her, although she seems to be quite suspicious of something. The wind is swirling this afternoon. See, she's unsure. She's looking the wrong way, but something definitely caught her attention. No, Zarissa, he looks like he ate in the last few days, so I don't think he needs to worry about it too much. But the idea behind the digestive system of predators is that they can actually go a couple of days without eating. So they gorge themselves so that they look like they've eaten a beach ball, and that will take a couple of days to digest. So 3 or 4 days is fine. I've seen lions that haven't eaten for a week and a half, then they start to look fairly thin. But then they normally catch something in due time. Now, she just stood on a branch. I heard it crack, and he didn't even lift his head up and acknowledge her. And if I can hear that waterbuck and, cracking as she steps on branches, then surely that male lion will be able to hear her easily. But he's not interested. He's fast asleep. She's still looking around, very uncertain, but she knows that something is up. She's acting like she's being quite suspicious. Even though that male lion has got an injury and he's limping, adrenaline is an incredible thing. And I've seen animals with broken legs get up and run like there's nothing wrong with them. So if he was absolutely desperate and ravenous and needed something to eat, well then, he probably wouldn't act like he had a sore leg anymore. Which is difficult because he is unlucky and he doesn't have the lionesses to help him. So he's still got to work on that. But maybe he'll catch up with his brothers a little bit later. Right, it seems as though the weather is changing in the Mara, and it seems as though a storm has started to brew.
The weather in the distance is definitely raining. We saw it on our way. That's why we decided not to go too far south. That is kind of the area over there where that's the Salt Lick area. In that general direction, a little bit more to the right is where the sausage tree pride and hanging out. It was very, very wet down that side, but beautiful, beautiful scenes. This is the view from the hyena den, and swathed with animals over the horizon. They've picked a really good real estate here. Very nice vegetation, brings in the herds. But just like Limpiloo, neither the prey animal or the predator here looks very interested in each other. Wildebeest are moaning constantly, but there's no sort of animosity between these two. Maybe when the light goes down. I always find it amazing because, I mean, hyena are known to actually kill and catch most of their food up here. And what they do is steal. Every now and again they steal the food, and every now and again it is them who wins against the lions, and sometimes it's the lions who win against the hyena, but sometimes male lions have interactions with themselves. We came across Kapuli in the late afternoon, far south near the Salt Lick area. It came as no surprise then to find him with the Salt Lick pride, sleeping off a meal delivered by this year's migration. The old veteran looked rather beaten up, with blood oozing from a hole below a very swollen right eye. As the temperatures cooled, each lioness took a turn to greet and investigate the battle-scarred male in characteristic lion fashion. As Kapuli looked on, the pride meandered off one by one into the darkening night. Can you imagine having a hole in your face over here? Everybody take your finger and just feel that area. Imagine a hole like this big, right in your face. Even James is feeling it. It can't be very nice. And Kapuli was wearing that like a battle-scarred gentleman. With the Salt Lick pride, they're all very, very keen to go over to him and give him a proper little... I can think of nothing worse. You've got this injury and everybody wants to rub on that spot. It's like having an older brother when you've got a bruise. All he does is he wants to push that bruise deliberately. Ooh, what's that? Can't imagine. So anyway, the herds in the open plains, whereabouts are the Salt Lick pride? They're out there somewhere. Kapuli is out there, probably with the herds spread out throughout the entire area. It's very difficult to track them down, but tomorrow, myself and obviously Big James, we're going to go and spend some time down in the south and see if we can track down any lions. The general game, from what we've noticed in the last few days, all seems to have moved towards the river, more northish, north and east. But there is still lots of general game down that side. There's huge areas that were burnt. So I think, I don't know, we're just going to have to play with it and see where we go. Now, definitely many, many lions out there, but the prey are just in abundance. It is mind-boggling, folks. I actually wanted to do a video myself as we came out this afternoon, because there were just so many animals. Well, it seems like the little chief has woken up. Let's go see what he's up to.
Look at him, he's transformed into another spotted creature. It is a hyena. No, I'm joking. Poor Hosanna has just been chased by this hyena. I don't know where he is. I don't know if he's actually under the car, because the last time I saw him I was walking to the bonnet and I didn't see him come out. So I'm not sure if he's actually underneath the car or not. So please excuse me while I just look and make sure. Hosanna, are you under there? Hello? No, it doesn't sound like it. Let's kind of just have a little look. If I start, he'll shoot outward. I'm just going to go back in case, because he's so relaxed sometimes you might actually be able to. Is he there? No, he's not there. All right, good. I think he must have gone round the mound. But this hyena came out at the worst possible time, because it's now stopped him from having a drink. He was about to go and have a lovely drink, and now instead he's parked himself off and is watching with disdain and daggers in his eyes as this hyena drinks the water that he wanted to go and have. And the hyena that was here looked like it was Corky, and she's very, very, very full. And I think it was her. It's either Corky or Pretty, but it looked like Corky to me. I didn't get a greatest of look because I was trying to watch where Hosanna was going. It looks like her, and so she's full and coming for a drink, which means I think she's maybe come from which den she's using. But the fact that she's arrived at Galagopan tends to suggest to me that she's moved either to this Aubrey's den or the Galago shortcut den, because that's the closest to this area. I wouldn't expect her to be coming from the Willemans Dip Den. She should have gone to Treehouse if that's where she was going to go and drink. But look at this, him. He's not the most regal cat when he sits like this. Interestingly enough, he's once again scent marking and making a lot of kind of scraping with the back legs, which is a new thing for Hosanna these days. It's very seldom we had seen him doing it before this week, but he seems very confident and is scraping all over the place like a proper leopard would do, and is scent marking bushes and lifting his tail. And it's not just lifting and pretending, he's seriously spraying. He's not just, a few little jets of urine. There's massive amounts of urine that are actually being kind of sprayed. Oh, poor Hosanna. I'm sorry, boy. If you were thirsty, that hyena's now wallowing. So Hosanna's got no chance. You can see Lukai's just watching that hyena as if to say, what are you doing at my water? I was thirsty. Now I have to wait for you, not only to get out, but also to defecate and urinate in my water and make it all stinky. That is a look of not impressed at all. He's such a funny cat. The expressions on his face sometimes. The university, yes, for the most part, younger leopards tend to sleep less than older ones. Older leopards, as they get tired, they generally are well established. Their territories are fairly well marked already, and so there's no real need for them to move around too much. And younger leopards seem to have, a bit more energy to burn. It's much like kids versus adults. Kids will run around all day long, whereas, adults tend to, for the most part, be a little bit more lethargic than a kid, or a little bit more measured, should we put it, in their approach to life than what kids are. And it's very much the same with young animals. It's not just leopard, it's lions, it's, cheetah, hyenas, all of these kind of animals. The young ones tend to run around in fits of extreme energy very quickly, and it's because most of the time they're not actually having to provide for themselves. They can take it fairly easy, they get fed, and therefore they can burn energy at a rate of knots and not have to stress too much. Whereas older cats, they know that every time they run around like a hooligan, they've actually got to replace that energy, and so they're far more measured in what they do. But isn't that just a stare of note? Hosanna, are you unimpressed, boy? Right, well, he looks very unimpressed, and I'm not surprised. Hyena has kind of drifted in, and this is not the first time we've seen this unimpressed look this week. At the beginning of the week, Tingana, Hosanna, and Umfakazi all had unimpressed looks of their own.
We find the little prince perched on top of a termite mound on a blustery afternoon. He is staring into the distance, and we soon see why. Another leopard is up a tree. It's Umfakazi, the newcomer, and he has managed to retrieve his kill from Hosanna. The next morning, Hosanna is still in attendance, but the figure looming behind him in the tree is a larger and more intimidating one. Umfakazi has clearly been dispatched, but by who? The relaxed nature of Hosanna under the tree indicates it can only be one, Tingana. It seems father and son have teamed up to chase the newcomer away. However, now that dad has a chance to feed, he leaves his son to try and fend off the hyenas on the ground. The prince snarls and keeps one of the clan at bay, while watching his dad as if to say, pass me some too. Unfortunately, father-son bonding time is cut short as more of the Juma clan arrive, and Hosanna is forced to ascend a nearby marula tree. With hyenas everywhere, Hosanna settles in for a short nap, while his dad Tingana watches over the scene with the prize at his feet.
Well, wasn't that amazing? Amazing, first of all, that we got such a good view of Umfakazi, because we know he can be a little on the shy side, so that was super cool. And then, obviously, to have father and son kind of team up, and that one kind of shot of Hosanna on the mound and Tingana behind him on the tree was just so magical. It was one of those very, very special kind of shots that we get, and Craig did sterling work to actually capture that. So very, very, very cool to see, and super fortunate that we got to see all three of them feed off one impala carcass. It goes to show you, I wonder how often that happens, that we find, leopards on carcasses, and how often they've actually been stolen by others. It's probably more often than we actually think, particularly with transient males. When there's big dominant males around, you would imagine that this is what would happen, and you'd think that these males obviously kind of push and vie for territory, and so thievery amongst them must be quite high. But Hosanna's reactions through that whole sighting were absolutely priceless. He first had to go and kind of stole it that morning, and then in the afternoon, Umfakazi had it back, and then, he then sat the next morning waiting for Tingana to kind of drop him scraps with this kind of begging look on his face that only Hosanna can have. Shame, boy, as your waterhole being occupied by a hyena. Yes, it looks that way. He does not look impressed at all by all of this. So our wide-eyed boy is still watching what's going on. And so while he does, let's send you across to Taylor McCurdy, who's now traded in the largest cat for the largest animal we see out here.
I traded in a cat for my favorite animal in the whole wide world, which was not a bad trade in my books. Yes, that lion did not look like he was going to wake up anytime soon. He was fast asleep. And then we were very lucky to stumble across a herd of elephants that are a lot more active. Now, if a herd of elephants moved through where that lion was, he'd definitely become a whole bunch more active, but I don't think that was going to be the case. There's not a teeny tiny calf, a couple of years old, walking close to mom, just feeding away, looking for things to nibble up. But there isn't much for them. It's very, very tough at the moment. It's a small herd. It might be part of a big herd. Tony, I haven't actually seen that many elephant calves at all. I've been saying on the drives how I've been, lacking seeing a herd of elephants. Been hoping to find a herd, of 20 or 30 of them and then spend quite a bit of time with them. But unfortunately, that has not been possible because I haven't found them yet. So this is a relatively small group. Pretty much that little one we're looking at is the youngest elephant in the herd. The rest are all much older. And I don't think I'm too worried. There's Mum. I'm interested to see where Mum's going to go. And she seems fairly relaxed with us, which is quite nice. So we'll just go with it at the moment. If she does approach us and she shows us that she's unhappy, we'll move out of her way. Dec, you love this sighting. Me too, and I'm so happy to share it with you. I think it is so awesome. It's very peaceful, very, very, very peaceful. And the light is just absolutely gorgeous at the moment too. So that definitely helps. I will say it, and I always say it, I say it often. There's nothing quite like a sighting with elephants. They just have a way about them. And you pretty much absorb into it. My favorite thing is to actually watch elephants' eyes. And the way that they stare at you. They're so soulful. Julie, I'm so glad that you are happy to see these eddies. I promise you I'm just as excited as you are. Look at her, she's got beautiful amber eyes, lovely long lashes, and also just to see all those folds in their skin is just beautiful. They are particularly wrinkly creatures, don't you think? Isn't that nice? Don't you think that texture is just absolutely beautiful? And it is best suited, of course, on an elephant. It shouldn't be seen anywhere else other than on these wonderful creatures. It doesn't look like they've had a drink just yet, so they might be making their way maybe towards Little Gowrie. They also have a pumped pan there. Now, Daniel, obviously we can look at this younger elephant, because you've asked about how long it takes for them to be able to utilize their trunks properly. It does take them a bit of time, so after about a year they're getting the hang of it, but I'd say up to about 2 years or so they're going to be struggling, and they're going to get stronger and stronger as they go. It'll definitely take quite a few years for them, and only once they're fully grown will they have trained most of those muscles. So you'll see every now and then this elephant will struggle a little bit, but predominantly it has got the hang of being able to find the smaller things and pick them up and eat them. And not too worried to be away from Mom either. Happy to walk around by itself. Shame, poor Hosanna is just being pestered by his least favorite animal in the wild.
Well, he is. Unfortunately, though, we just missed it. The hyena just went around the termite mound, and he had to kind of face off. And they were standing about a meter apart, and Hosanna showed his teeth, and hyena just backed off, and you realize there's no carcass here, and moved away. So hopefully Hosanna's now going to go for a drink. It's beautiful, beautiful light if he does drink from the one side. But no, instead he's going to check where the hyena's gone. He's going to just jump up his mound, make sure that the coast is clear before he kind of moves away from the sanctity of thickets and trees that he could potentially use to hide away. So he's just watching the hyena as she kind of probably strolls off. I'm going to just reverse a little bit just so I can see where the hyena actually is at the moment, given that he's kind of watching over his shoulder. It doesn't look like he seems too perturbed now. Can you see the hyena anymore? No. No, now he's lay back down, which is not ideal. So he's not going to go for water like I had hoped. Now that this hyena has moved off, I thought he was going to head in that direction and actually go drink, but so Aiden, who's 7 years old, you make a valid point, Aiden. Can he not scare away the hyena because he's bigger? Well, Aiden, there goes the hyena. Actually, it's drifting off down far, 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 far from where we are now. Aiden, he could if he really, really wanted to, but remember, Aiden, that a hyena has got a very, very strong bite. And so that means that if it bites Hosanna, he's going to get a very sore paw or a sore leg, or maybe even worse, it might break something. And then he can't feed himself and he's not able to actually then survive. And so it's much easier just to try and leave the hyenas alone and move away from hyenas and try and kind of go in a different direction than it is to try and fight with them. And so that's why he'll rather just kind of hiss and growl and then move away and let the hyena walk off. And hyenas actually don't want to fight with leopards either, because they also don't want to get injured, but they will check and make sure that there's no food in case they can potentially steal something and, maybe get themselves a meal. So both of them have mutual respect. They're both just kind of looking around and investigating, and once the hyena's happy that there's no food here, it just moves off and leaves the leopard alone, and the leopard doesn't have to try and fight with the hyena, because otherwise it might get very badly hurt. And because they don't live in families, no one will look after them if they do get hurt. Hello, boy. Isn't he beautiful? That is as good as you can ask for from a leopard up on a mound, with his little tail kind of perched up on the mound as well, a bit of golden light glinting in the eyes. Absolutely beautiful. Right, now, while Hosanna gazes into the sunset, watching the hyena disappear, I believe Steve is much like Hosanna, is sitting and watching one of the most epic sunsets that we get, and that's up in East Africa in the Masai Mara.
Yes, indeed, thank you. The last rays of the sun descending behind the mountain there. Beautiful pinks, oranges and yellows. These zebras are quite enjoying watching the sunset with a beautiful silhouette. It's a gorgeous picture. A whole file of zebra on their way from the riverside back into this open area, probably for the night. They were calling quite a lot before, trying to get themselves all to maybe move into the same area. Safety. We've moved from the hyena den to try capture this sunset, and hoping we might catch some lions moving through after some of the herds. It is that time of day where it's nice and cool. Perfect time for a hunting cat to be moving around. Because this is the time of day lions normally get active, and it normally starts off with just a little bit of play and grooming. As luck would have it, we bumped into the Paradise Pride just as they were starting to get active. Affectionate play from the youngsters led as always to some necessary grooming from Mum. One by one, the pride got ready to move, with more adults joining the pride from the shelter of the thickets, where they no doubt escaped the heat of the day. The young sub-adults, clearly hungry, took on the task of selecting dinner. The lionesses sat back and watched the budding hunters at work. With dinner at stake and darkness soon upon them, it was clear that the cubs had still many lessons to learn before they could be regarded as important members of the pride's hunting elite. How interesting was it watching those cubs move around? They were definitely hungry. They definitely had some eyes on some zebra in the distance, but the topi were watching them the whole time. And eventually, after not even an attempt, just basically moving in the direction, they realized that the adults were moving in another way, and they thought, well, if we want food, we better follow suit. Excuse me, I think, there's dust, I might sneeze. It's borderline, sorry. And there, I think it's gone. There they are, busy feeding. Heads are down. It is a dangerous time of day for a zebra. The lions lurking in the long grass. They're moving through from a distant area. They don't know what has been lying up and waiting here. There could be lions lying up in ambush. That's why they normally move in a single file sort of line, always a point man. Let's see another group joining in from the right there. You hear some zebra shouting in the distance. There's a communication call, often also an alarm call. So far, I haven't yet found a predator with zebras up here making that noise. More just a, come on everybody, let's come hang out together kind of call. Beautiful colours. You see how individual there is rubbing the other one with its head. They're very touchy-feely, very tactile animals. Okay, so we are going to move on from our stripes, see if we can find something tawny. But back to Tristan and his spots.
Well, good luck. Hopefully you find what you are looking for. As you can see, Hosana is posing as best as we could ever asked him. I don't even think that's good English, but anyway, we'll go with it. Sometimes words fail us and we just hack through it and say things and hope for the best. But he's kind of posing up on this mound and he's giving us this glare from his mound. You are looking very good, boy. You are a solid piece of leopard these days. Those shoulders and head, and look, big yawn now, which I think is going to be an indication that he's going to start moving and maybe it's time to go and have a drink. Are you thirsty, boy? Seems like he might be a little bit thirsty, and that's why he wants to kind of head and off and maybe try and go to Gallagher Pan. The problem that he's going to have is that actually there is another visitor at Gallagher Pan at the moment that we can't see right now. But we'll try and kind of maybe see if Hosana heads there. If Hosana does go there, we'll be able to kind of see what I was talking about. But essentially there was an elephant bull that walked right behind where Hosana is now and towards Gallagher Pan. And so we'll see if he kind of heads there. Maybe he will. And we'll be able to kind of get a view of him and the Ellie bull in the background. So far the Ellie hasn't come around the mound yet. It came from the right side and was going to the left, but I think it's at the pan drinking. As soon as there's a bit of water splashing, I would imagine Hosana might actually start thinking about kind of looking over the mound to investigate what's going on behind him. But we've had Hosana hyena now, Hosana and elephant around, and so everything seems to just be coming to the prince, which is, I suppose, his magnetic little personality getting everyone coming here. Yes, James Richard, you are exactly right. Handsome Hosana contemplating food or life, who knows? It's tricky to say with him because he's, constantly got food on the brain. He typically looks for food all the time, and so I wouldn't be surprised if he is trying to kind of think about where his next meal is going to come from and what potentially is around. Maybe there's something that's actually in this area that he's potentially interested in. And that's why he's kind of looking around. Maybe he's spotted something. I don't think so, though. Those yawns do indicate that he should start thinking about actually moving at some point. So I'm hoping that he's going to get up off his mound and go and have a drink. It's just such a beautiful afternoon that it'll be quite nice. Safari Aussie, tough to say. I mean, there's a lot of time still to go and lots of things still to happen. If he is going to take over Tingana's territory, but essentially it might happen. There might very well be kind of that happening, and I hope that it is, because I would be really, really happy if he did end up taking over this territory. It would be great for us. Now you're going to see that there's an Ellie there, Hosana. Nobody's catching you a break, I'm afraid, my boy. Everybody's taking your pan. Just when he wants to go and drink, everybody else is around. I would love to be able to show you the Ellie, but it's going to be a bit tricky because there's no way to get forward. Yeah, so you're now going to give up on drinking, boy. Oh, I'm sorry. Right, let's get back and try and figure it out. Right, I'm going to just quickly try and reverse and try and get with Hosana again. But while I do, I was saying that it's been a tough week for Hosana with losing kills, but it's been an even tougher week for poor Mfakazi.
We returned to Mfakazi's kill the next morning, but we arrived to find a different face on the scene. As usual, members of the Djuma clan are in attendance. Tingana, however, had stopped feeding. Something had clearly caught his attention. He scouted around and all of a sudden descended the tree with the complete disregard for his safety. Hyena gave a short chase, but were more interested in the dangling carcass and left the Duke to groom himself in the warm spring sun. Tingana, after a few glances, let out a mighty saw as he stamped his authority as ruler of the land. Clean and well fed, the Duke then wandered down to the nearest waterhole to quench his thirst before finding some shade to settle in for the day.
Well, you can see this Ellie bull is about to move off, but poor Mfakazi, 2 kills stolen by the Duke in the space of about 4 days. Tingana has an absolute knack for finding food. How he does it, I don't know. He must have the strongest sense of smell out of any leopard ever, because he always seems to find kills that are around. But there goes our Ellie bull walking off into the golden light. So I just want to catch up with Hasana before he kind of disappears. So you'll see the Ellie will just kind of move through those golden rays. Isn't that beautiful? That's very, very, very pretty. Bit of dust in the air as well as that Ellie kind of strolls off. How wonderful. Magical scene, isn't that? It's kind of typical of Africa. Right, now, while the Ellie walks into the rays of the sunset, I believe Taylor McCurdy is driving into the sunset. Let's send you back across to her.
I think it's probably my favorite time of the day when I get to drive into the sunset. It's lovely. So our elephants left us. They carried on with their journey of searching for water and delicious grass to eat, which they won't find at this time of the year, but good luck to them anyways. Maybe they find themselves underneath the jackalberry tree and they can munch on some sugary treats. But so after leaving that lion, apparently he's still fast asleep. I've been thinking about the Nkuhuma Pride a lot, and I've been seeing their tracks all around in this area. So there's a possibility we might get a chance to see them. But I did, and I have already spent a couple of hours with them, which proved out to be quite fun.
The Nkuhuma Pride Mungane boys and the lone Talamati male gave me the runaround on the sunrise safari. Luckily, we were able to find them in the afternoon. They moved around from out of the shade and into the golden light to catch the last of the afternoon warmth. They then snoozed until the sun set behind the horizon. A rather large herd of buffalo were just in the distance, and the lions eventually got to their feet, followed their noses in the direction of the large bovids.
Right, it was so lovely to spend pretty much the entire afternoon safari with the Nkuhuma Pride. I did enjoy it, even though most of the time they were just rolling around and teasing us with signs of waking up. Eventually they did get up, and then sure, trying to follow them through that crazy thicket. Man, it was hard, through all the bush willows, through all the silver class leaf trees. So we decided to go back out and around, and we waited on the fire break, and eventually we got to see them one last time, which was nice. Now, I don't know whereabouts they are on Chitwa. I couldn't get hold of anybody to actually find out if they were even there to begin with. So we're just sort of bumbling around. We're heading to that western sector of the reserve again, where we had seen the wild dogs just a couple of days ago. Actually, 2 days ago, in fact. So they haven't been, I don't know when they were last spotted. I think they must have been seen yesterday morning or this morning. But they're not on Djuma just yet. But this is a great time for them to do one last run around, try and find something to eat. So we might as well be on the move as well, because if you are stuck in one place and you haven't got anything, the chances of something coming towards you is quite slim. So I think we'll head towards the most western boundary, and I suppose from that side we'll also get a really incredible sunset. So it's, you know, I suppose it's not bad thinking to go down that way. We'll just keep on keeping on. Now, of course, East Africa is about an hour ahead of us, so the sun has set behind the Olololo escarpment. I bet Steve is about to get his spotlight out and ready for the nocturnal creatures.
It is almost dark, thanks Taylor. The sun has set. The IR lights are available and the spotlight will be coming out soon. We just left huge herds of zebra and wildebeest there in keeping keeping our eyes peeled for any movement of the tawny nature on our way along this road. Anything could pop out here. It's the marvelous way of the wilderness. These vast open areas, these prides are moving with the herds, killing as they go. The other day we didn't see it, but one lioness with a male killed 3 wildebeest just because they were there. So it's that killing frenzy that happens this time of year. They definitely are doing a lot. So we're hoping to just get one of those happening at some stage. And the temperature being a lot cooler now, the wind is slightly picked up. Good opportunity. Paula, yay for infrared. Okay, well, yes, it is a nice spectrum to be in. I wish I could see like that. It would make things a lot easier. Because often when it's dark and we're looking at the screen, you can't really see what's going on. Obviously, that's why we use the spotlights. So we've left that herd. No lions that we can see moving around, but these plains are vast and very, very wide. And, you know, there's a lot of luck involved out here. There's another big herd coming along. And when they're in these big herds, they're actually easier to hunt than when they're in smaller groups, because although there's a lot more of them, they all seem to think that someone else is watching out. So invariably the herds of wildebeest are very easily caught. Hopefully we'll be able to find something along the way in the form of a tawny cat. But anyway, it seems like Tristan is following Hosanna now. Where he's headed to, nobody knows.
We are indeed. We're following him as he's kind of moving away. He's decided too much competition at that water point, so he's now going to go for a stroll north of the pan. He likes to walk around this area. Hopefully he's not going to drag us through too many thickets. It'll be nice if he just kind of uses the pathways that are in this section. But scent marking as he goes, stopping, pausing, listening, looking, trying to kind of see if he can find any sign probably of another meal. There he goes again. Seems like he might have spotted something. Look at that curl in the tail. Isn't that just so leopard-like? It's so cool when they do that. It's a beautiful animal. I don't really find how people can't find a leopard beautiful. It's an amazing creature to watch walking through. And we're so fortunate that we get to watch this all the time. Right, now, we've seen Hosanna scent marking. We've seen him moving around. What that's got with Tingana, I'm not quite, but either way, Tingana earlier this week definitely caught the scent of something.
After a week of successful feeding, it was time for the Duke to do his territorial patrol. He sniffed and phlegm and grimaced, clearly catching the scent of another. Tingana, deciding the scent could not be left, promptly lifted his tail and sprayed his own signature on the tree. The scent of another had clearly sparked him into action, as he spent the majority of his afternoon patrolling. He only briefly stopped at bushes and termite mounds to lay down his scent. Satisfied he had laid down a clear chemical trail, he even let out his telltale saw to reaffirm to all who is still the Duke of Djuma.
Well, hopefully that's a good sign that Tingana is just kind of reaffirming his boundaries, and it seems like he's not worried about Hosanna, because he's not tracking Hosanna down. He was actually moving away from where Hosanna was when he was scent marking like that. So it seems like he's not too sort of concerned with Hosanna's marking, but more of maybe others. Now, Hosanna is busy moving through a very tricky area. It's going to be a bit of a struggle to follow him as he goes through, and we're probably going to get a bit of signal breakup. So before that happens, I'm going to send you back across to Taylor as our little boy wanders through the thickets.
And still into the sunset. I'll be doing that all day, every day. Well, not quite every day, but would you like to have a look at it, what I'm driving into? I bet you would. It's so peaceful and beautiful there. The Drakensberg Mountains, the beautiful sun and the silhouetted trees. And the graceful sounds of crowned lapwings. Isn't that gorgeous? The northern Sabi Sand is very, very lucky. There definitely aren't very many views like this down in the south. The fact that we get to look back at this incredible backdrop. Even though it feels like it's just a stone throw away, it's a good 1.5, 2-hour drive to get to those mountains. Yvette, I'm sorry that you missed the regular safaris, but yes, like you said, the Sunday Safari Lives is definitely a fantastic update of everything that has gone on. So if you can't make it and join us on the sunrise and sunset safaris, just remember, make time for a Sunday, and you'll be filled in on all the happenings that have happened. The happenings that have happened. Right. Off we go, off we go. Okay, we're down in the west now, obviously. Looks like we're edging closer to the sun. So we'll just scratch around here for a little bit and see what wonderful creatures decide to show themselves to us. We're definitely going to have to add some jerseys on soon. It's getting a little bit chilly, and especially that the wind is slowly starting to pick up. I think we might be in for a windy evening. I'm happy to admit if I'm wrong, though. I hope it's not too windy. Just a gentle breeze, just to keep things nice and cool. Right, now, Tristan obviously was battling through a denser spot. He's managed to navigate through it, and now Hosanna is on the prowl.
He is indeed. So where he's walking right now, Daika just bolted off, so he seems to be on the prowl. You can see, look, how he's stopping and looking now, trying to work out where did this Daika go, so he can work out how to get his next meal. So even though he's got a full tummy, back on the prowl once again, looking for food. So we're going to try and keep up with him, heading pretty much towards an old hyena den site that's just north of us here. So it's a nice kind of track that goes this way, which is delightfully helpful, because if he had gone across the next drainage down to our right, it would have been a lot more tricky to have followed the little prince around. And so I'm quite glad he decided to use this route more than anything else. Let's see now. Don't want to go charging forward too much, because I'm not sure where that Daika ran off to, but seems to be kind of moving through there. All right, well, Steve, in terms of how Tingana will react, we don't know. This is a new thing that Hosanna is doing. So whether Tingana gets irritated by it and tries to chase Hosanna out, I'm not sure. Or he might just kind of be like, well, it's my son, I know who it is, I'm not too stressed about it, he's not competition at this stage, he's still too small for me. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It's certainly a bold move from Hosanna and a change in his behavior. It's the first time this week that I've actually seen him scent marking, scraping his feet. We've been seeing him lifting his tail and spraying from time to time over the past few months, but nothing along the lines of actually scraping his back legs. Now it looks like he's actually stalking something, so I'm going to just try and get into a nice little position here and then turn off, and we'll just try and see what he's up to. There we go. So I don't want to drive too much and clatter into too many stumps because of the way that he's kind of moving. You see him here just on the right. That is a poised cat that is definitely focused. You can see, look at how he's kind of going forward a little bit, and then just watching and looking and just trying to see what's going on. Now, no, obviously whatever it was has moved off too far from him. I thought must have been closer than that, the way that he initially started stalking. He's also got his tail up now, which generally is an indication that he's no longer hunting. So we're going to try and kind of keep up with him as he goes. Maybe he's potentially could be stalking. I saw a dwarf mongoose run off just now as well. Could potentially be stalking that. Yes, that's exactly what he's stalking. There's a dwarf mongoose that just ran into this pile of thickets, and he's kind of on our left side, right side, coming across. And the left was, well, the dwarf mongoose ran from there to the left, so that's what he's actually watching at the moment. Not really a good meal. I think this is more just him kind of going after something that moves more than it's actually him looking for food. A dwarf mongoose is not something that they really eat. They often kill them, but very seldom do they actually eat them, which is quite interesting. And it takes a bit of skill to catch a dwarf mongoose. A dwarf mongoose is not an animal that moves very slowly and has quite keen eyesight, and at this time of the day will not be far from its little den and will probably disappear quite quickly. Nope, decided dwarf mongoose is not on the menu, so off he goes. Let's keep up with him as he does. Are you going to come back onto the path for us, Hosanna? No. I think he's going to head towards the big termite mound. Chantal, you and me both, when they twitch that tail, it's the best thing ever. I also love it when they do. It's kind of like you can see that there's the little hamster inside. The brain is kind of running at full speed when they twitch the tail. Hello, boy. What you doing? Nope, he's just on a typical kind of mission that he likes to walk. See, the little dewlap is starting now. Well, it's not just starting, it's actually getting quite big now. It's already starting to get his dad's kind of look in that he's going to get a nice big dewlap at some point. And straight towards where that mound is. So that's a mound that he often kind of comes to. It's an old hyena den that used to be in this area. It's not active with the current hyenas. We've checked it around here and there's no sign of the hyenas moving in this area, but it gives you an idea of kind of where he is at the moment. Still walking north. I suspect he's going to Buffelshoek. He's going to probably go to Tambuti Dam. It's an area that he has been going to every now and then maybe round towards Buffelshoek Dam side. So I wouldn't be surprised that we see him in that area. He might also kind of head up there and then decide to come back south and head back towards the dam cam. That could also be quite possible. Right, still moving off quite quickly, so let's try and catch up with him before he gets too far away. Problem is if he decides to move off of this road or two-track, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. We will not be able to keep up with him at all. He'll be going into thickets that really just are not easy. But he's spotted something. What's that in the distance there, Seb? Is that a nyala or something? Straight over his head, basically, to the right. Yes, there's a nyala. This is not going to bode well for us, I'm afraid, because what he's going to do is he's not going to walk up this path to go to those nyala. He's going to get himself into the thickest bush possible so that he can camouflage, and that means, there you go, you see, he's heading straight off towards the thickets where he's going to try and hunt them. But look at that. You can see how he's got his head down, kind of ears focused forward. Isn't that cool? I don't know if we're going to be able to keep up with them, but we're definitely going to sit way, way, way back and to see what is going to happen. Maxie, you say this is really exciting. It feels like you're here in person. Well, Maxine, I'm glad that you are excited and that you are enjoying this. It really is something special to follow a leopard as it goes on a hunt. You can see the nyala in the distance. I'm not going to move any further. I'm going to give lots and lots of space. From here we can see the leopard moving nicely towards those nyala, so for now we don't need to move at all, and it's a very special thing that we get an insight into these spotted cats live. Now you can see he's stopped now and he's just looking, so I think what he's trying to work out is exactly what he's going to do. He's got a very long way still to go. It's probably about 100 meters that he's got to cover still to get to those nyala, so it's a long, long, long way. Unfortunately, the camera lens kind of compresses the image, so it looks like those nyala are much closer than they really are. But he's got a lot of work to do if he's going to get anywhere near those nyala just yet. And the nyala are walking the wrong way for us too. I was hoping they were going to drift towards us and away from that thicket, but they're walking straight into it, which is good for him, but very bad for us at this stage, because we are going to, unfortunately, probably not be able to follow him if he does hunt inside that thicket. Also, we'd probably just disturb his hunting if we did, because of the amount of trees that we'd have to hit and bash and kind of knock over. So if he moves forward, nyala have all gone into that thicket and he's just watching there. So I think what he did is just wait now for the nyala to move into the thicket, and then he'll probably start going that way. There we go. Now that the last one's gone in, he's going to move in there as well. So I'm going to try and just see if we can get into a good position to view him and the nyala. While I do that though, let's send you all the way back up to Steve. He's still on the search for those tawny cats, and well, hopefully as night descends he'll be able to find one of them somewhere in that area.
Hosanna, catch yourself some dinner. Well, we've bumped into another clan of hyena. Whether they are related to the North Clan or not is very hard to say. A whole bunch of them living in one of the little holes in the culverts of the road. They're on both sides of this road here. We were hoping to catch up with some tawny cats, but these hyena will do. And who they are, well, I couldn't tell you. There's a number of them here. They could be an offshoot of the North Clan. I really don't know. I mean, apparently there's up to 60, 70 members in a clan that size, so this is probably just another little den site, if it is the same clan. They're starting to get active. A little bit of greeting ceremony happening there with the youngster. See the submissive behavior there in the background. Very submissive, lying on its back. wind and the light is the perfect time to start getting active. See the one on the right's tail is up. It's a little bit of a sort of excitement in the air. Minamu, I'm not 100% sure whether the laughing and she looks like she's got blind in the one eye. Did you see how that coloration was different? Minamu, they definitely do cackle, when they are being submissive to each other. The lower ranking ones definitely will cackle more, but when they're in a conflict situation with other hyena, they all cackle, they all make an enormous amount of noise, and I don't think any of that's got to do with social standing. That's got to do with sort of the collection of the group, keep them all together as they move in as one to dominate another group. You can clearly see that eye, the right eye of that individual is not shining back, which indicates it's probably damaged, but she seems perfectly fine. We've seen lots of animals with injured eyes that seem to just get on with business, and their moment of getting busy is slowly getting relaxed again. And I'm sure they'll be getting up in the early evening. Nice wind in the air, no doubt they are probably hungry. Well, maybe not, there's so much food available. They're probably eating more than their share every single day. Still can't help themselves. They've got borders to patrol, territories to uphold, and they've got to walk off their meals. Otherwise they'll get nice and fat. And we do see quite a few fat hyena around the Mara these days. Little round sausages. At least 7 members here. The wind, you can tell by the movement of the grass, is quite strong. You can probably hear it on my mic as well. And lion leopard will all kill hyena cubs and eat them if they can get them. Same as eating wild dog cubs or pups if they can get hold of them. And the opposite is true as well. All predators will essentially kill their competition's youngsters if they can get hold of them. Hyena pups are more successful in that they are able to be, they bury themselves. They go into the ground and they've got the safety of the den, safety of the hole. So they're a lot more sort of protected than lion and leopard cubs, and so probably a lot more successful in the rearing. Hyenas often sniff out lion cubs, that's why, and they have to move them quite regularly. Just hide them under a bush. It's not the best way to keep them, but that is the way it works out on these landscapes. The lion population still does quite well, even with a quite poor success rate. Probably only one cub in a litter will make it to adulthood on average. It's not a very good success rate if you ask me. Every now and again it will be better, depending on the pride and the competition within the area, of course. Here we go. Going to come and say hello. Come right up to the note. Going to flop right down and scratch its face. So that is what you do in the morning. It is their morning, you see. It's time for them to wake up and start getting active. And on nights like this, on our way here, we started seeing the wildebeest herds really bunching up together. It was very windy, very hard to feel safe in an environment where there's constantly predators lurking, when you can't hear, and the wind is a bit swirly, so the smell as well is quite sort of all over the place. They all use it to their advantage. Okay, well, we're going to move off from these hyena and let's go back down to Taylor McCurdy in South Africa.
So our search for the wild dogs has been unsuccessful, sadly, but that is just one of those things. We did have an incredible afternoon safari, though, filled with a sleepy lion and elephants, and I suppose all the antelope in the Sabi Sand, don't you think? We saw enough Nyala and all sorts of other creatures today, so that has been very much entertaining. But who knows what else will happen a little bit later, and all the sounds that you'll hear on the dam cam, so make sure you keep listening out for that. But for the final minutes of the show, I'm sure you'd like to spend it with Tristan and, of course, the young chief.
Well, it's a very, very long distance view of Hosana down in the thickets because We are not moving anywhere near him. He's still hunting and still trying to get closer to those nyala. And if we go anywhere near him, all we're going to do is just scare off his potential meals. And so what we're doing is we're just allowing him to really kind of have a bit of a chance to kind of take it easy and to hunt, and hopefully he will be able to try and find some sort of semblance of food during the night. We'll come check up here tomorrow. But I hope that you all had an absolutely wonderful time with us this evening. It's been a blast. We've had lots and lots of interesting things, and another great week of catching up with all of our favorite animals that we see out here in both the Mara and Djuma. So from all of us, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope, like I say, that you enjoyed it, and we'll see you all next week, same time, same place, for another edition of Safari Lives.